Ladies and gentlemen, Big Terry News.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Kia ora, Chewie.
Bah!
Jesus, that was loud. That was loud.
That's
Holy
a professional
crap.
soundtrack. Just making sure that everybody's gear's working. Hello.
How are you, man? What's going on? What's crack-lacking?
Oh, just today's been a bloody old day, hasn't it? Like, not just but also there's lots of shit that is just what the hell? What the hell was even today?
Yeah, I was working in my studio this afternoon, and I've always got kind of YouTube on and around. Everyone knows I've got the most toxic YouTube algorithm in the world. Picks up all the bad stuff, but it picks up all the good stuff as well. And so, like 30 minutes after it was uploaded by RNZ, Tākuta Ferris's interview with Mihingarangi came across my feed, and I was like, okay, the world is now stopping, and I'm watching this. And I tell you what, I mean, that would be my notes for my clips if we did all of them. We're not going to do all of them because it's too long, but I've picked out a few of them, and yeah, you got to go and watch the whole thing. And even though it is, some of the things that are said in there are shocking, and some of the accusations are really serious, we do take it with a grain of salt, not because we're disbelieving Tākuta at all. It's because we still don't know the whole story as to what's going on. But put it this way, if it's accurate as Tākuta tells the story, man, this is not a good day for Māori politics in New Zealand. Not a good day. And I suspect, as is often the case, the truth is often somewhere in the middle. Now, that doesn't mean that it's 50-50. I mean, 90% might be accurate, what Tākuta's saying, and it might be, so there's a perspective from one's own kind of interpretation of stuff as well. But yeah, either way, it's not a good day. And when I say not a good day, I mean the news that's come out in this interview does not paint a good picture, which is not helpful for Te Pāti Māori or Māori seats or Māori politics in New Zealand today. So she's a pretty squirrely one tonight, and we are going to have a good look at that. We're also going to have a look at Christopher Hipkins on Big Herald Now, talking about Kiwisaver for low income earners, because that was one of the things we talked about yesterday with the 6% proposal by National. What happens to people who are already struggling and they're only paying 3%? So Chippy speaks to that and a few more things. Also, Christopher Hipkins is actually Christopher Luxon, actually from yesterday, wanting to kind of do a song and dance saying, no, our coalition's fine. There's no cracks in our coalition whatsoever. Sort of the weekend after Winston says, that bill we just passed, yeah, we're going to repeal it next time around. And, obvious things going on there. Finally as well, something that's not in the show notes yet, will be, but there was quite a late breaking announcement that regional councils are gone ski or will be gone ski. And yeah, we didn't have that on the lineup because it was only released at like 5 p.m. And it was on the 6 o'clock news. So we've actually got Sophie Barker, the new mayor for New.
What the hell? Yeah,
it's a crazy old day. It's a crazy old day. On top of all of that, I spoke to a particular podcaster in Auckland today to see if and when schools hit 1,500, he wouldn't mind taking our little cookie along to Mr. Seymour to allow him to eat his own words, should that happen. So that's all out there as well. It's actually been a really big day, really big day. And yeah, we're going to get into it and have some kōrero with all of you guys and with a guest very shortly. Anything else we've got to mention at the start of the show, Chewie? I think I've just mentioned basically Armageddon, but is there anything else?
Merch. Did you switch off the merch deals?
I didn't actually. I forgot about it.
You didn't.
So that's
You
still
didn't.
going. No.
Just what will the management say? You're just letting discounts just sail out the door. It's crazy. Someone should really scoop them up before Pat remembers how to turn them off.
Speaking of merch, I had a look today at where the coffee cups are, the mugs are, and they're expected to land in New Zealand between the 8th and 18th of December. That's what the itinerary says out of the manufacturers, which means, as I said to you a week or so ago, you will not be getting these before Christmas. But I'm thinking maybe we might have to do a bit of a pre-sale special next week for people to get them delivered as soon as they land, straight out the door to you guys. So the last part of the merch, which is the coffee mugs, are literally, not figuratively, literally on the way, and they will be here next month for you to give yourself a good and happy New Year's present or something like that. All right, let's get into the story, shall we? Because we have been told today that the government is planning sweeping changes to how regional councils work. One of the changes they're going to make involves the new role that they want local mayors to do. Now, this is all kind of like the announcement. So no one's going to get a full and comprehensive solution tonight because we don't have all the data yet. But we did think, seeing this has been floated by this government today, we'll have a look at some of the details in a second. We should get a mayor on to talk about this proposed idea. So we want to welcome to the show Dunedin's new mayor. It is Sophie Barker. Sophie, kia ora and good evening to you.
Kia ora, good evening. Is it a good evening? You've described it as Armageddon.
I'm being a little
End of days.
a little bit dramatic. There's just lots of news today. It's funny, because there's lots of news and we kind of go, oh, too much news. And when there's not enough news, you're like, oh, damn, there's not enough news. It's like we can never be happy. I think that's the lesson from this. We can never be happy.
Indeed. Yes.
Hey, first of all, congratulations on the win. That's pretty amazing. How does it feel to be the new mayor of Dunedin?
Gosh, it's a big step up. It's just been an absolute whirlwind because you go from finding out that you've won at 10 o'clock on Sunday night to starting work at 8 in the morning and not a day's breath, basically. It's full on and running hard, and then slap by all of the news coming on, all of the reforms and everything coming towards us as well. Being a mayor is a really hard job, and then with all of the excess stuff going on, it makes it a lot harder.
Not this time around, but last time around, when Aaron Hawkins was running again for his second term, he told me in an interview that he was choosing not to tick the "and councillor" box because his words were, he thought it would be unfair if he was the mayor to then go back and be a councillor under a new mayor. Now, this time around, we have the previous mayor, the mayor, 8 weeks ago, ticking the councillor box and now being a councillor sort of under you, the new mayor. How is that working itself out?
Always a bit challenging. We've got, is it 5 or 6 people that stood for mayor now on council? So that is a bit challenging because really you've been battling it out for all of the election period, and then suddenly you wake up and you're all part of a team the next day. So I think that's still got to work its way through a little bit. I'm appreciative, I guess when you have previous councillors / mayor on the council, at least they do know some things that are going on. However, it is challenging for people to remember their role, I guess.
Know your place. Yeah. Know your place, X-Man. Know your place. All right. Now, as I've said pretty clearly, we're not going to come to an absolute conclusion on this conversation today, but there are some ideas out about what this new idea, or this actually, Christopher Bishop said to all the bloody Christophers. Christopher Bishop said today, basically, well, not basically, I mean, I can't say he literally said it because I'm going to get the quote wrong, but he said the one thing we're not going to do is keep the status quo. So when I say this is an idea, the one thing that this isn't is a possibility of, should we keep this the way it is? I don't know why. There's no, other than maybe saving some money. They don't seem to have a real reason as to why it can't stay like it is. But I'm going to play a couple of quick clips from the one news item tonight, really just talking to how this proposal is going to look and what the initial release has been of the getting rid of the regional councils. So let's have a look at those.
Regional councils, the top tier of local government in New Zealand, are being axed under radical reforms confirmed just an hour ago. For context, there are 11 regional councils across the country, and we've outlined them here. They include Northland, Waikato, Bay of Plenty, Hawke's Bay, Wellington, and down south, Canterbury, West Coast and Otago. They're responsible for larger areas and generally manage environmental and public transport issues. So what's the new plan? Well, regional councils will be replaced by panels.
We'll come back to you, Chewie. But I enjoyed that role when he said and environmental issues. Says Chewie. Okay.
Consisting of local mayors. For example, the mayors of Napier, Hastings, Wairoa and Central Hawke's Bay would take over running their regional council. The number of people on these panels will depend on the size and population of the region. We have extensive coverage this evening.
So that's clip number 1 explaining it, but clip number 2 actually goes into I guess this is the scenarios they're floating. It could be. So this is going to go to consultation. It's going to be talked about, but it seems that the government is saying there's a couple of ways this could work. So what we have at the moment is, let's say, and I'm pretty sure that Otago has 4 mayors, because there's Waimati, Dunedin, Clutha, 5, Central Otago, Queenstown.
Yeah.
So in Otago, there's 5. So in theory, in Otago, there'd be 5 mayors on this panel. How would it operate? That's what this clip explains.
So how would it work? Imagine one region has 5 mayors, Mayor A metro city, Mayor B, a mid-sized town, and 3 rural mayors with much smaller populations. Under option 1, each mayor has 1 vote. So if Mayor A and B voted no, but the rest voted yes, the 3 rural towns would win with a majority, despite having only 1/10 of the overall population. Under option 2, voting is based on population, with a motion needing 50% to pass. Mayor A controls 70% of the vote, Mayor B 20%, while rural mayors control 10% combined. So if Mayor A voted yes and everyone else voted no, the motion would pass.
There is a case.
So that's what we're going to look at. And I'm going to use us as an example here in Otago, because I've done the numbers, right? So this is on Wikipedia. This is Waitaki, Central Otago, Queenstown Lakes, Dunedin, Clutha. Option A, everyone gets 1 vote. Everyone puts 1 hand up, 3 to win. That means if you went to Waitaki and to Clutha and to Central Otago, that's a population of 65,000 people out of a complete population of about 245,000 people. So if it was 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, then the mayors representing 65,000 people out of 245,000 could make the decision. The other way, if it was basically population-based, Dunedin has 129,000, all the rest have 115,000, which means if Dunedin mayor went yes, nothing else matters. So my initial first thoughts, Sophie, were, and again, we're saying this is just the initial stages of this, is that perhaps what someone in Clutha would want may be different from what someone in Dunedin would want, may be different from what someone in Queenstown would want. And the benefit of the regional council is they can go, well, it's different here to here to here. Whereas this government seems to be saying, we want to make it more universal. But when you're in a region like Dunedin or Hawke's Bay or whatever, there may not be a universal fit for a decision. Now, as we've said 3 times now, we don't have a final outcome or final conversations, but you kind of, the other thing I was going to say, are they going to increase your pay by 50% if you've been given a new job? That was, I mean, well, but genuinely, if they're going to cancel all these other ones and say, now you, Mayor, you're 1/5 responsible, you should get a pay increase for that. Anyway, Sophie, that's what we know so far. What are your initial thoughts?
Gosh, well, kind of almost great for Dunedin if we just got the casting vote all of the time, but rubbish for the other councils. And I think we have a mayoral forum, and that is for the Otago mayors, and that is something that we try to find the areas that we can collaborate on, but we all are very different areas. And I think that's where it's going to make some of those decisions quite hard. And we saw that during the water reform, which is, Dunedin decided to stand it alone because that makes the most sense, supposedly, for our ratepayers. And and do our ratepayers want to, shall we just completely simplify it, pick up the bill for the other smaller councils around? So there's that, I guess, selfishness in a lot of decisions that councils might make for themselves. So it just seems like cramming everything into a paper bag and watching us fight it out.
And the example you used of the Three Waters reforms, we've used lots of times. Obviously, Gore is a part of Southland, not a part of Otago, but they need $300 million to fix their pipes. So that means what they're voting for, the Mayor of Gore, is going to be potentially very different from the Mayor of Invercargill, because what the Mayor of Gore needs for his ratepayers / voters could be very different. And so that's what we're thinking. I mean, of those options, do you feel like one of them is more likely than the other, the kind of 1-1-1-1 vote each, or proportionally? And how does, in your initial thoughts, how are you able to get what's best for Dunedin, being what you've been voted in for, whilst Clutha also gets what's best for Clutha?
Oh, I just can't really see a win for everyone under this this format. And that was a great explainer piece, because we had got so little information in the media releases that had come out. I mean, we'd heard that there was a rumour that that regional councils are going to go, but we had been told, we just went up in Wellington with DIA the week before, and said, oh, well, we won't be pushing amalgamation unless people want it. You know, you're going to hear a few weeks before, or a week before Christmas, something like that. So to have the announcement this week is quite a shock and quite a lot to come to terms with. We're just starting our terms. We're like 5-6 weeks in, and there's a whole lot more heading at us.
Yeah, Chris Bishop being asked today, can he guarantee that councillors for regional council would see out their first term? And he said, no, can't make that guarantee. I wonder also legally how they can do that. Like, I mean, we're talking about democracy and democratic choice and the voters voting, and all of a sudden they're going to come in and go, yeah, you know, all those people you guys voted for, yeah, we're going to can them. Chewie, you're kind of in the same sort of, we all are, of just kind of figuring this out. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, my big question here is, what problem are they trying to solve? Like, I haven't heard of any, ructions about something being just unwieldy and unworkable, and it seems to be a lessening of democracy, and they don't even seem to have an idea of how functionally it's going to work. So the only thing that I can think of is that the regional councils hold an enormous amount of assets.
Yeah.
And whether that's going to be looked at as a way of parceling things up for privatisation or that sort of thing. And then, Pat, if you want to put up that screen that I've shared there, then there's this from ACT. Now, they seem to be pretty clear that the big benefit here is they can get the pesky Māori out of it. So, yeah, this seems to be a little bit just, yeah, we know what we want out of this, because the regional councils have been open to having Māori consultation, and ECAN up in Canterbury is an excellent advice. Like, why would local Māori be particularly concerned about environmental issues like clean water and that sort of thing? So, yeah, there's a whole basket of stuff that just seems like a real Pandora's box that they're opening here. I think the silver lining here is they have to win the next election to put this into action, right?
I mean, they've said 3 years.
Or are they just going to rip shit and bust and go for it?
Well, the one thing that these guys haven't been backwards and coming forwards with is the fast track laws, eh? So who knows? Yeah, as I said, a bit of a strange thing to kind of go, well, let's talk about this. We don't really know anything, but let's talk about this. But on this idea, I mean, ideologically, Sophie, how do you feel about kind of having a voice to speak into Clutha or Queenstown or Central Otago when you've been elected to speak into Dunedin? Do you have any qualms there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this current government were busy electioneering on localism, and now they're just trying to rip the guts out of it, and that's a terrible thing, because it is all about our local voices speaking for our local people and delivering for our communities, and this is just not okay. You know, there is this huge tidal wave of reform coming to us. They're talking about the rates caps. So, like, where are we going to find the money to do all of this extra work? We're just going to magic up the hours and the people. We've got unfunded mandates. We've got the RMA reforms, or the systems improvements bill, which is, again, trying to put handcuffs around local government. And it does seem an attack on local government by central government, when really they need to be looking in the mirror about what are they doing about education, about hospitals. You know, I don't know if it's smoke and mirrors kind of thing. And where is the actual community crying out for this? We know there's a cost of living and economic development, and that's what back pocket stuff, what people want to concentrate on. But is this really the answer?
But the point you make, though, about the localizing, centralizing things, this government ran on criticizing the then Labour government on all the things they were trying to centralise, and just it's almost like the Republicans go, states rule, states rights, just leave it to the states, like just leave it to the local authorities. Then since then they've been doing everything they can to amalgamate local authorities into bigger groups anyway. So bring in the commissioners, bring in the ministers, to ride roughshod over all of our local decision making. Yeah, there is another part of that story which I think they did talk about, bringing in like commissioners as well, and then they'd be getting into, so what was it about you guys rallying against unelected officials, and now you're thinking about the same thing as well. So it's all a bit of an interesting wait and see. Sophie, thanks for joining us tonight. Before you go, you are going to be joining us on the 5th of December, so that's Friday week, for our meeting at ADU, which is about the health system. You are going to be hopefully speaking a little bit about the Save Our Hospitals campaign. Anything you want to tell us about coming along then? Anything you want to give us a little preview for as to work you've done to save Dunedin Hospital?
Yeah, I guess this is all about people power. I think the government thought they could just ignore us. And when people are incensed about something, that's when they turn out. We had 35,000 people turn out in our city to fight for our hospital. And that shows the power of localism and local voice. And I think that's really important, because we all have to fight for our health system. I had 3 lots of brain surgery, 3rd lot in Australia, but 2 lots in our local hospital. So I know the importance of how those local hospitals saved my life and lives of people around me as well. So it's something I'm really passionate about. Awesome. We look forward to hearing you talk next Friday night. And thanks so much for joining us tonight. And again, congratulations on the win. Thank you very much. And I'll look forward to catching up with you soon. All right, Sophie. All the best. Cheers, bye-bye. Sophie. Mayor Sophie Barker from Dunedin. Yep, there you go, Chewie. It does, and I like to try and play a straight bat, meaning being fair and being even-handed, but this government has led me time and time and time and time again to not trust them. So I'm like, as soon as you see the swag of assets they have, I'm like, oh. So it's almost like, you have that person in your life who screws you over 2 or 3 times, and then they basically have to prove themselves before you'll trust them again. I feel like this government needs to prove itself before anyone should trust them again, but they're continuing to not prove themselves by the decisions they're making and the hypocrisy and the things they're doing that they criticise the last lot from. Anyway. I just can't see the benefit to them, like taking democratically elected councillors away from rural areas and rural voters. I just can't see that being a winner for national. But I also think that idea of, like, it's not going to be the same everywhere, but major metro, and I know some of you will roll your eyes, but Dunedin is a major metro, and then the ruralist of rural New Zealand. And the thing about a governing body like a regional council, it can go, well, these guys want something different from these guys. Whereas this government's actively saying, and they said it in the story, I'm not going to go back and play it, but they actively said they want to get, a universalized way of doing things. Because they're thinking if you make 20 exact widgets, it's a lot cheaper than making 5 lots of 4 different widgets. But rural Otago, urban Otago, and then Queenstown's like an animal in and of itself with the money that's up there. They don't need the same widgets, and a governing body that looks at all of them and is not in charge of one in particular, I think has more of a chance of being able to say, well, that group in this area needs this widget and that area needs this widget, whereas the government seems to be saying everyone's going to have the same widgets and it's going to be cheaper.
And I don't see how that works for a regional council that has both rural and urban metros in the same area. Not to mention the thing about the voting that we just said about, if it's everyone gets one vote, then like a third or a quarter of the population can make the decisions. And if it's down to population, then one person out of 5 can make the decision. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I hate saying this, but I do say the proof of the pudding is in the paper, devil's in the details. But every time we say that, there's never any details to make it seem like it's an okay result. It always falls on the other side with this lot. Anyway. Okay. Just a few super chats and stuff that are coming through. Haven't slept since yesterday morning, just passing through. Also 389, says Citizen Gold. It's in the ballot. Regional councils are Kiwi environmental watch to keep both local council and central government in check. Do we want this check and balance removed? Well, that's interesting. So if they're kind of, if you think about them as the intermediary between local body and central, then if you remove them, then what? Central just controls local body. Central is able to lean more heavily on local. Maybe that's part of the devil in the detail we need to know about. Laura says regional councils deal with stuff like public transport and civil defence. What the fuck is the coalition of chaos doing? District councils don't have resources for that. Well, this is the point, isn't it? I mean, as I said, let alone now saying to all these mayors, oh, by the way, here's another 15 hours a week you need to be focused on. From where? From where? Where are we magicking up that time from? Peter says regional councils control billions of dollars in locally owned assets. Is the government raiding those or forcing a fire sale? Yeah, there you go. WTF, this government is cooked. From Speed. Laura says, so how is this not big government? Yep. Speed again. How will rural folk continue to support national, which I guess is echoing the things you said there, Chewie, as well, eh? And E. Grant Wright says treaty obligations excluded according to press conference. So, And look, I'll say it for the 4th time. I'm realizing we're kind of saying, hey, here's this news story that we know nothing about. But I think the other thing that we've learned from this government is if you don't get onto their suggestions early, you can end up being blindsided by a fast track. Like you got to follow these guys bloody closely, or else, the fast track hits in all of a sudden 3 weeks down the track, they've made legislation and no one's talked about it. So rather get in early when we don't know everything, than wait for all the details because that's the day it's going to be passed. All right. Anything else, Chewie? Anything you want to add to that?
No, let's see, but it doesn't feel good.
Smacks of Atlas Network, says Ro.
It stinks something rotten.
So speaking of the coalition of chaos, which is I think is what you guys were calling them. I don't know why you call them that. It's a bit mean. Christopher Luxon was on Breakfast yesterday. I think in the world of politics, you can tell when someone's being disingenuous or dishonest. And I wrote down in my notes, methinks the lady doth protesteth too much. And that's like when you go, oh, no, you kind of say this is right, and you make a big complaint. I think the same can be said when you make a big brag. Methinks the lady doth brag too much. When someone says to you, there's a few cracks in this coalition, if your reaction to that is over the top, everything's fantastic, we've all just decided to carry each other's children, that's how good it all is, it also comes across as disingenuous and easily readable. Love to be playing poker with you at that time. Christopher Luxon on Breakfast was asked about cracks in the coalition. And methinks the lady doth brag too much.
And the coalition, the Regulatory Standards Act, which Winston Peters came out and said he would repeal if he was re-elected. So what's going on here with the coalition partners?
Well, I think 2 things. One is I just say to you, we've formed a coalition government. It's giving you strong and stable government in New Zealand. It's got 3 parties in it. We're all very united around the core things we want to do: grow the economy, law and order, better public services. But we're in an MMP environment, and parties will actually lay out their own stalls and have their own positions. And actually, we've got to get comfortable with the fact that actually, we're a coalition government that's very united about what we're doing, but we also will have parties with their own positions. But the key thing here is,
It's a bit different though, isn't it? When you're talking so casually about parties with their own positions, from Winston Peters and New Zealand First that were just singing the praises of the Regulatory Standards Bill 10 days ago, and then 5 days ago were saying we're going to cancel this, these unelected board members, etc., etc., etc. So it's not really just our parties are entitled to their own opinions, because that wasn't the opinion of New Zealand First publicly 10 days ago, and it became the opinion of Winston Peters. I haven't heard from anybody else actually, Chewie. I don't know if you have. I haven't seen any of the other New Zealand First MPs speak to this, but Winston Peters changed his stripes pretty damn quickly. So this conversation with the PM does sound like that middle management, the manager of a company that doesn't want to admit that their product needs to be recalled, or if they do, they want to make sure that everyone's okay. We're all still on the same page. This is all good. This is not a problem. It is like that middle manager trying to make sure his underling, his other manager, is not being thrown under the bus, because if the underling gets thrown under the bus, what that means is you're a bad manager for employing him. That's the vibe I get out of this, Chewie, pretty much.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'd take our coalition over the other side, or the potential other side, any
Of course
day
you
of the
would,
week.
because you're Prime Minister.
Because strong and stable government is being delivered. But parties will have different points of view, and you're going to see that as we go into election year as well.
On the other hand, though, David Seymour said that it sounded like one of the coalition partners, Winston Peters, was cozying up to Labour, which is definitely...
Oh, no, because this is just the stable way we talk. Those two guys fighting, that's stable. There's no cracks. That's where we're so stable, we're able to mock each other. That's how we're such good friends. They were just joking. That's how stable we are. We're so stable. What we've actually done is we're so stable, we've actually flipped over and then gone all the way again, and we've come back up the right way. That's how stable we are.
Not part of the coalition government.
Well, I'll just say, no, I disagree. I think, what we're saying is...
You'll disagree with what? With that David Seymour said that? Or that Winston Peters has caused? What exactly are you disagreeing with, Mr. Luxon?
We've got three parties. We have managed to make it work. It's an MMP system in New Zealand. It's not a first-past-the-post system. You can't have first-past-the-post in MMP. You've got to look at it and say, I think we have made it work incredibly well. But that doesn't preclude parties from having different points of view. As you've seen yesterday, this is a National Party position to actually increase Kiwisaver contributions. That's a pitch that we'll take to the election next year. Other parties will have their own views as well.
When New Zealand First voted for this, but then a couple of days had that about turn, does that give you some concern about Mr. Peters?
None whatsoever. What I can say to you...
That's the me think the lady does brag too much. It's like... We're going to talk about Te Pāti Māori tonight, and everybody watching us will regularly knows us that we're fans of Te Pāti Māori in general. But there's no point sitting here going, do you have any concerns? Absolutely none. Because it's obvious there's shit going down. And this is when you watch this Prime Minister starting to play middle management games. No, we sell the best product, but the other guys are out selling you 20-1. Nope, ours is the best. This is what he's doing. And we can all see it's not tickety-boo. So him not even going, boys will be boys. There's always going to be scrap. Even a minor version of it without mea culpaing, it actually looks weak. Because it looks like you're trying to pull the wool over our eyes when we can see. It's like saying that water is wet. No, we can see. We can feel that the water is wet. Sorry, it's like saying water is dry is what I meant to say. It's like he's saying water is dry, but we can put our finger in the water and see that it's wet. We don't need you to explain it to us, so you're lying. Sorry, Joe.
I think more to the point, just akin to his statement there, that did you know, Pat, that you can't have an MMP style of government and also have a first past the post style of government?
Really?
That's like saying, well, you can't have an ocean and also a desert in the same place at the same time. Well, thank you, Christopher Luxon, apparently the Minister for Head Injuries. What the hell is going on?
All right, this has got about 20 seconds to go. I just want to get that absolutely not again or whatever he said, just so we're clear on the bullshit. If you look really closely, there is something brown just on his chin because he's speaking that much shit.
Does that give you some concern about Mr. Peters?
None whatsoever. What I can say to you is when you look at National New Zealand First Act as a coalition, that has provided strong and stable government to New Zealand in an MMP environment. And I just ask you to think about the other side, Labour, Te Pāti Māori, the Greens and two independents. That isn't going to be strong and stable government.
Very, very quickly.
Unfortunately, Chewie, for the left, I don't agree with what he just said then, but the position he just took then is going to be uptaken by a lot of people who are considering because of what's happening with Te Pāti Māori right now. So whilst I think what he's saying is not accurate, I do also think, unfortunately for the left at the moment, there is a lot of unknown and a lot of friction that is going to cause some people to easily believe what he just said. Any thoughts, sir?
Yeah, look, again, I think this is going to be the theme of tonight. Just incredibly concerning. Just nonsense. Like this government is spiraling. They are spiraling. They're looking at what we're looking at, and they're describing it as something completely different.
Yeah.
Like he is trying to hold them together in the most ineffectual way possible. And by that, I mean, the way that he's trying to hold things together is just to go on TV and say everything is fine. He's not actively doing anything to go, come on, guys, you're making me look bad. Stop it. And neither Winston nor David Seymour give a single fuck. Because it is the election cycle now. Don't let them fool you that that's not until next year. It has started.
Well, we know that because of the national announcement yesterday on Kiwisaver. They've officially started.
Yep. They are all campaigning, and look, ACT's job is to tear votes away from National. And New Zealand's first job is to survive any way they can.
To keep Winston Peters standing upright.
It's not a union. It's not focused on moving on the same direction. It's they're just going to they're going to tear each other apart. So yeah, as much as Luxon wants to say, yeah, strong and stable government, and we're the only people that can make a three-headed coalition work in MMP because I'm the person that knows that it's MMP and not first past the post. He's wrong. He's wrong. Like he's wrong on everything.
Let me just answer. I need to bring up something I watched today on, believe it or not, the platform. Ella Henry. Ella Henry is a former, I think, human rights commissioner. She is involved with Manamutu Haki, and she was involved with politics a long time ago. And she spoke to the Keeper of the Crypt today. And DIY Guru says, nah, Pat, if you ain't going to vote Labour or Green because of Te Pāti Māori, then you weren't ever going to vote Labour or Green. One of the things she said today to Michael Laws was people just won't vote. Like there'll be people who would have voted for Te Pāti Māori, who would have voted that way, would have been involved, who now just won't. So this at the moment, if the election was held today, this would impact the vote. It might not change the vote for Labour or the Greens. I actually think that one of the sad things is, well, is it sad? I won't say that. One of the realities is more turmoil in Te Pāti Māori is going to actually be more votes for the Greens, because I think there are people in the Māori role who would go Green. And I'm now also wondering how active the Greens are going to be in the Māori seats, because if there is I know we don't think of the Greens as playing the political game so much, the kind of cut and thrust of it, but if there are, put it this way, if Te Pāti Māori fell apart, and we're going to watch Tākuta Ferris shortly, and you know, if you believe everything that's said in that interview, they're ripe for falling apart. If Te Pāti Māori was to fall apart, and you were to then say, would you prefer Labour to take those seats back or have a Green representative take it? Which would you prefer? There might be a push by the Greens for the Māori seats. There might be, for example, some or one of the current Te Pāti Māori MPs ending up running for the Greens, for example. Don't know anything. just speculating things at the moment. So, yeah, I think that this could suppress the vote, which is how it could impact the left. Because people are hurt. There are people who are hurt. There are a lot of people who are hurt. I mean, listen again to Ella Henry today. She was basically saying she's heartbroken. She's heartbroken about what's going on at the moment. And not that we're involved with that world necessarily, but I mean, I kind of feel a bit that way as well, just from looking from the outside in. We keep saying it's like your two best friends are having a fight. Who do you ask to your birthday party? It's really hard. Chewie, sorry, who you wanted to go?
Yeah, it's I think that's what I've been mulling over is what we have lost here and why, well, potentially lost, and why the ructions in Te Pāti Māori are so devastating, is we have gone from that massive Toitu activation, that massive show of force, and part of that was getting people that didn't think the political process would speak for them, and that there wasn't someone that had their back, and now there was. And there was a movement, and there was momentum in that movement. And it feels like what has been going on with Te Pāti Māori over the last few weeks has completely killed that momentum. And people will feel betrayed and jaded about it, and they'll just nope out of the whole process again. They're like, okay, so it's back to what it was before when I didn't vote. There's no one there for me.
Yeah.
And you know, going by our own chat, there are people here that were big Te Pāti Māori supporters that are going, I'm voting Green, I'm voting Labour. And I was thinking last night, I actually don't know. Like, I know Labour tends to contest all the Māori seats. I'm not aware of how much effort the Green Party has put into those seats before.
Yeah. Oh, well, just remember though, the Māori seats are interesting because I think it was in 96 or 2000. Winston Peters, New Zealand first won all of them. So they've had a history of going. The Māori vote has a history of going with who they feel represents them, and for some I was it in that same interview? I was watching something today, and it became really clear. I don't understand it right. I'm not Māori, so I don't quite get it, but one of the differences is every iwi and hapu and tribe operate slightly differently, which means every Māori seat operates slightly differently, which means every Māori party or Māori winning MP has a slightly different mandate, which is very different from, for example, an ACT, where everybody who's involved with that comes from the same place and has the same objectives. So it seems that when you're dealing with, I don't even know, I actually don't know, I'm not trying to find the words, I don't know the words. When you're dealing with a group and the Indigenous people, and the Indigenous people have a slightly different take on the world, it's not like, when I don't want to say it's not united, I'm not talking about united as in to move forward, but they're not necessarily on the same page with everything. So what happens in some parties, and it becomes incredibly frustrating, is people vote against their own self-interest because they have to vote the way that the party says they vote. I'm not saying that's not the case in Te Pāti Māori, but it feels like in the Māori seats, it feels like within the Māori seats is the one place that even if you're in the same party, you may have a very different perspective on an issue because it's more like the family votes rather than the party votes, the family being the iwi in that. Yeah, I'm struggling to find the words. It seems clear in my head, but I'm trying to figure out, or trying to explain what's in my brain cap about how the Māori seats feel different, and they feel individualised much more so than an electorate seat or a list party seat, even if you're in the same party. And that immediately is going to come with some kind of affliction. And also, if it's family, if it's whānau, then there's things like egos and there's things like hurt feelings. And, if you're just a number in Labour or a number in ACT, it's like mum and dad aren't going to get pissy with all of ACT and throw them out if ACT does something to that political that person. But if you offend that person within Māoridom and they're your MP and they're actually part of your tribe, then all of a sudden there's a grudge to bear, and it's different. It's just different. And I guess I'm speaking to something that I don't really understand, but and I said way back at the start about the Eru Kapakingi and Mariamino Kapakingi. I'm like, I can kind of get it because, they were mean to his mum. It's different. You know what I mean? It's different. It's no, you wouldn't get that vibe if someone like ousted someone from Labour or from ACT. You know, they're just an MP. They're not someone's mum. They are, but you know what I mean? It's not the same. And so it feels like it's harder to kind of figure out the political direction or the political response to this, because the Māori seats don't have the same political setup or expectation, maybe, or kind of black and whiteness, meaning, you know, a yes or no, yay or nay, than a general electorate seat would or a list seat would, because this is my auntie's seat, this is my mum's seat.
Well,
it's different.
We talked we touched on this a little bit when the wolves were circling Nanaia Mahuta. That's the big difference here when we're talking about Māori politics, is because those whānau and hapu links are so much closer. Like there's so many people that are cousins or brother-in-laws or sister-in-laws and some aunties and all of that sort of stuff that we don't see in the wider population. Almost said the whiter population there for those playing at home. And you know, this is what we have with Te Pāti Māori. You know, we have Rawiri's wife is it Rawiri Hone's son-in-law or something? And then you've got, you know, you're being mean to my mum, and it's just something we don't see elsewhere, and it makes it seem so much messier, because anything with God, look at you guys, look at your own families. Are they crazy and messy? Fuck, mine are.
And that's why.
Thank you. Rawiri's going out with Tamahiri's daughter. Yeah, sorry, I got the names mixed up there. But yeah, where else do you see that?
It's also the thing that doesn't quite fit in kind of mainstream thought process, is this thing of nepotism. It's like, that's obviously an accusation. That's often an accusation labelled at some of Māori MPs within Te Pāti Māori or within the Māori seats. You know, they've got people working in their office who are family, but that's like, that could be anyone from their tribe. You know, it's different. It's different from someone in ACT having their sister and stuff and all those people in their office, because sort of anyone that lives in that region potentially is a family member. So it's different. It's not the same as comparing it to other things, which I guess then, and I'll put my hand up for this, means it's even harder for some of us to understand because we're not a part of it. And that's possibly why right through this thing, I think it's been pretty clear that we've been saying there's some shit going down. This doesn't look good. This is not good when it comes to politics, but we don't really also know what's going on. And as I said earlier tonight, it's like two of your mates are in the middle of a fight, and you want your birthday party's coming up, and you want to invite them both, but you can't invite them both because one of them, then there'll be a fight at the party, so you got to ask one, and how the hell do you pick one? That's how I feel, at least at the moment. Although in saying that, we're going to get to it shortly, when you hear Tākuta's, some of the things he says, if everything he's saying is 100% acceptable, and I'm going to contact Debbie and I'm going to ask her one question, and my one question is, did JT say at the hui what Tākuta said he said? Because if that's the case, then JT is a huge problem, without question, if that's the case. So before we get there, let's just, that's, if you haven't seen the interview, you won't know what I'm talking about, but it will be made clear. And that's what I sort of want to know. Right, let's do Chippy before, then we'll finish up the show with doing Tākuta as well. They were talking about National's Kiwisaver plans. And like we said last night, Labour's not necessarily not a fan of the idea of lie down. Just stay there. Stop freaking out. There's no one home. Labour's not necessarily anti the idea of increasing people. In fact, I think they're pro the idea of, but they would do it a different way. They would especially help out people who are on lower income. So this part of the conversation, it's just a couple of minutes, not even actually. How are you going to get lower income people on to Kiwisaver? How are you going to get them up to that 12%? Are you going to lower Kiwisaver, like from 3 to 1% to allow lower incomes to get on? That's a part of this conversation.
So when you talk about the 3% being too much for some people at the moment, would you look at lowering that?
No, I think we've got to look at how we can get low-income workers into Kiwisaver. So in Australia, which the Prime Minister compares, his changes to, it's actually a different situation. It's all on the employer. The employee doesn't have to stump up with half of the contributions.
Is this what you're looking at?
No, I'm not announcing anything.
I'm not announcing it, but I'm asking if you're looking at it.
He does. Chewie does talk quite a lot about a policy he's not announcing. And I think Ryan's fair to kind of push him on this because Chewie won't say anything, but he says quite a lot. I don't know if it's good or bad, but yeah, and Ryan's picking up on some stuff. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's fair enough for Ryan to pick up on it because Chewie's kind of putting a bit of red meat out there.
I'm saying that Christopher Luxon's comparison with Australia is a false comparison.
Fair.
The Australian scheme is very different to New Zealand's scheme.
So for lower income workers in New Zealand, the employer should be doing the, in principle, you think should be doing the heavy lifting for them?
Well, the government have announced this policy, so if you've got questions about
No,
it,
I'm
then
not
you should
talking
ask
about
them. We haven't announced a Kiwisaver policy
No, I
yet. We
know.
will do in due course, and
I
I'm
know, but
happy to answer questions on it. But
I'm
they
curious
haven't
to know in
done the
principle you're
detailed
feeling-
work here.
Yeah, no, but I'm
Good
curious
push.
to know in principle
push, yeah.
your feeling towards about employers picking up that slack.
My concern around Kiwisaver at the moment is that we've got a number of people on lower incomes, a number of self-employed people who aren't in Kiwisaver. Increasing contributions for those who are in Kiwisaver isn't going to help those people, and we do need more of a focus on them.
Working for families, you're going to look at increasing that?
Oh, it's not something we've considered at this point.
Really?
Well, I mean,
It's normally the go-to for Labor.
Well, we're still a year away from the election. So, but that's not.
It's funny. Politicians normally say that it's not something we've considered because they don't want to talk about it. But what Chewie says here is it's not something we've considered because he quickly goes, maybe we'll consider it, but this is the one time when a politician says it's not something we've considered. You hear Luxon saying that all the time as a way to not answer a question, but in this instance, it's actually something they are yet to consider.
For Labor.
Well, we're still a year away from the election. So, but that's not on our current policy work plan. But it might be before the election, but it's not right now.
Okay. Will you rule out this one?
There we go. I'll play one more clip, Chewie, and that is a little bit of talk around Winston Peters, actually. And is Winston Peters wanting to be kind of best friends again with Labor? The comment that Seymour made. Is he looking to be besties, old Winnie, with Labor again?
Winston Peters had any chats with New Zealand First lately?
Not at all, no.
No texts?
No, none at all. I mean, but there's a clear message here to New Zealanders. If you're voting for Winston Peters, who knows what you're voting for? If you want a
courier pigeons,
change of government, if you want strong and stable government, which we haven't had for the last 2 years, vote Labor.
Do you still think he's racist?
I think Winston Peters has a number of views that are not compatible with the sort of unified
Labor
approach that I want to bring to government.
So rule him out?
I've said that I'll settle all that out closer to the election.
But why not just do it now? I mean, why would you work with a racist if that's what you think he is?
Well, who knows whether Winston Peters will still be around at the next election? I mean, Shane Jones seems to be keen to take over New Zealand First. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
Oh, get him! Oh, that was so good. Who knows?
I might play.
Who knows if he'll be here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Chippy's kind of finding his stride. And look, statistically speaking, he probably won't be around at the end of the next election cycle. I mean, honestly, what do you have to do to settle down and retire and have some quiet time? Like, honestly, I was talking to someone today and they were talking about narcissism. And they were saying one of the things about narcissism is it doesn't often flow into a second generation, meaning one person can have that, but then when they try and pass it on, you can't pass it on, which means the reason we call it Winston First is they will not survive after Winston's gone, because the reason that people vote for New Zealand First is Winston Peters. There is no other reason that people vote for New Zealand First other than Winston Peters. So once Winston Peters is gone, New Zealand First will be gone as well.
Well, that's why Shane Jones is putting so much effort into, becoming the martyr of mining. He's trying to build his own weird cult of personality. Look, personally, I think, have you ever kept parrots, Pat?
I have not.
One of the things with parrots is if it gets dark, they just assume it's nighttime.
They go to bed.
Yeah, you just put a sheet over the cage and they're like, okay, doesn't matter when it is. I'm wondering if Winston is like that as well. So if we can just keep,
bag over his head.
If we just keep the blinds in his house closed, he'll just go, oh, looks like it's never daytime again. I'll just stay in bed. And then it's a nice, peaceful way to solve that problem.
I'm going to play one more clip. I've got some thoughts around this. It's only 20 or 30 seconds because we haven't talked about this yet. I know they talked about it on Friday night, but we haven't talked about puberty blockers yet. Just one. This is literally only 30 seconds.
The puberty blockers thing, would you reverse that?
We've said that puberty blockers should be a health decision. So it's a decision between the individual concerned, their parents, and their health practitioner. And that's where we think it should stay.
Doctors. So
that's literally it all. The thing about so much of this Americanized, imported culture war stuff is you actually don't almost even need to have the conversation to stop the conversation. And I'll show you what I mean. A couple of nights ago on Twitter, I put this tweet out. I don't mention puberty blockers, but I put this tweet out. Can anybody educate me as to when the last time that a government changed laws to stop doctors prescribing what they thought was best for their patient?
Oh, what chum did you pull up with this? Did you hear from some of the internet's worst people?
Well, I heard from a lot of people saying ivermectin, COVID, and my response to several of them.
Then.
So my response to several of them was, show me where the government stepped in and passed laws or changed legislation or changed best advice, whatever it was, to stop doctors doing what they thought was best. And to be honest with you, there might only be one example that came through fair enough over the last few years, and it's pseudoephedrine, when the government stopped that. I mean, fair enough. I think that's probably at least an argument could be had, that doctors would still have prescribed pseudoephedrine and the government kind of changed the rules around it. But when you're working and talking to these culture war tinfoil hat wearers, I never mentioned puberty blockers. Obviously, they came back and I got child groomer several times and various other things as well. But I think what Chippy said is correct. And what it actually does is it takes it away from ill-informed conversation as well. I'm not an expert on puberty blockers. I tend to trust the medical fraternity. Explain to me, and then on top of that, how comfortable should we be that a government steps in and says to doctors, you know that thing that you think is best practice, we don't want you doing it anymore. That's the part of this conversation that I think is most dangerous. Well, I guess, because I don't know a lot about puberty blockers, there might be some personal, medical stuff which is as important. But from the actual overall conversation, a government stopping best practice. This reeks a little bit of in America, RFK Jr. taking away millions of dollars from research in helping cancer, like some of the mRNA. I was going to say vaccines, mRNA medications they were working on, they said was things like cures for cancer.
Yeah.
And he stopped. And he stopped
close.
it. And he stopped it. And this is not, I don't want to put it not as serious. This is not the same, but it feels like it's at least in that Venn diagram that politicians are deciding what's best for doctors to do with their patients. And that should be concerning to everybody, Chewie.
This is the crazy timeline that we live on, because I mean, you mentioned the US influence when it comes to the transgender stuff. It's really coming from the UK,
Yeah.
and so here we have a government deciding to stick its nose into what medical professionals think is best practice, and which is researched and peer reviewed, and is something that has been just developing over the space of pretty much decades as far as how we approach this. And that has been stopped dead in its tracks because a woman made a lot of money selling books about a boy wizard, and she doesn't like it either. And J.K. Rowling has poured so much toxicity and money into this. That is just flowing out of the UK and the US into social media, and that's somehow been drip fed into Winston's ears, and he's gone, there's another audience full of cookers I can speak to.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
I mean, for Winston, some of this stuff is looking for a constituency to vote for him.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. And he's found them. And at the next election, all those Freedom New Zealand, Leighton Baker, you can tell I investigate that world. All those things, they won't exist, but they'll all vote for Winston. If Winston's still around, they'll all vote for Winston.
Like, I mean, it's slightly tangential, but look, all the people that were celebrating this were celebrating it from the point of view of, hooray, we let kids get to be kids. And then they can make up their minds properly before any damage is done. That's what puberty blockers are for. They hit the pause button on puberty to give the kids a chance to work this out of whether this is something that they really want. And that's why there is such a pathway with the medical professionals of interviews, psych reports, all of that sort of stuff, longer discussion. It removes that deadline of like, well, once the estrogen and the testosterone starts flowing, it starts locking in some physical features into your body. If we hit pause on that, you've got time to think. And that is what these people have taken away. It's madness.
Okay. You ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
Go! Go!
You can go.
Bunny rabbits! Yeah, go on.
Someone came home, so I get rejected and left at the bottom of the pile. Right, conversations. Lurch says, Key was a master of dismiss, distract, demonize, disregard, and deny. Cluxon sucks at it. Yeah, he doesn't even do that stuff.
No, he's terrible.
Yeah. AKA the cat. It is the inexpert insult. It is the inexpert insult to my fucking intelligent that I resent the match at this point. Man, that for some reason that's messing with my dyslexia, that sentence. It is the inexpert insult to my fucking intelligence that I resent the most at this point. Okay. The insult to my intelligence is what I'm resenting it most. Got it. Got there in the end. Speedlocked says, we be creating engagement instead of enragement. Okay. I think we're going to wrap up the show. This is going to be a probably a good 20 minutes. Well, a good 20 minutes. This is going to be 20 minutes.
Do you need to go to the
Ferris.
toilet? Go to the toilet now. Get a cup of tea. Strap in.
Tākuta Ferris was on Mata with Mihingarangi Forbes today. I went through and I listed off about 9 clips. We would have watched the whole 47 minutes if we'd done that. So go and watch it for yourself. I've pulled a few things out. The conversation started with them talking about the root cause of this fallout. What is the root cause of this fallout? What's going on? And Tākuta said really clearly, I can tell you what it was. It was a hui on October the 9th that Tākuta, well, actually, I think it was Mari Meno Kapakingi called it for just the MPs. So the 6 MPs were going to get together and nut things out. And then after a small while, another person was added, and then all of a sudden, he doesn't mention the number, but I can see, 10, 15 people there. And so it wasn't just the MPs. And the end of the hui, and I think he said it was Maria Mena, I could be wrong with that, but one of the MPs asked for a ceasefire, said to everybody, can we have a ceasefire? And everybody agreed to it until it got to JT, which is why I said at the start, if this is 100% accurate as Tākuta says, then I can't see how there can be a Te Pāti Māori party reunited with JT still there, if this is 100% accurate. And I'm going to try and find out if it is or isn't, but let's have a listen to that. So we're coming up to the point where he's talking about at the hui, we were being asked for a ceasefire.
But that hui is the hui where at the end, Kitty had asked for a ceasefire. And after a bit of discussion, it was going around the room. She had called us all to say, will you agree to a ceasefire? Will you agree? Will you agree? So we were doing that. And happily or reluctantly, it was being agreed all the way around the room until it got to JT over here. And instead of agreeing to it, JT said, amongst other things, he did say that I will get utu for my daughter, and I will get it from those Kapakingi boys and their media company. Now, whatever that means, I don't know, but, I know that there's a problem here between JT and Maria Meno and the Kapakingi boys, Eru, and the fallout from Toitu and all of that. And so, 3 hours into a hui of this nature, I'm just like, oh, my. So I intervened in that, and obviously Maria Meno had leapt to the defence of her whānau, and that hui was quickly coming to a negative conclusion. And as I reflect on that, would Whatarangi Winiata, president of the Māori Party, had chosen those words on that night? What would have happened if he had have just agreed to the ceasefire and everyone agreed? What would the next move have been? Well, we'll never know because that didn't happen. That hui imploded. I stood up and said, well, buggy is, and walked out. Actually, not after saying to JT, the easiest way through all of this is you put all of your stuff on the table, and Meno, you put all of your stuff on the table, and we'll all work it out. Everyone will know. Now, I've asked for that from this whole group more than 3 times, maybe 3 or 4 times. Never got it.
So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah. And I saw someone in the comments saying, yep, he said that, Pat. Sometimes what's really important, it was Kitty, it was Rawiri's wife and JT's daughter who called for a ceasefire. Gotcha. That was the Kitty. Yeah, it was Kitty. Okay, so it was Rawiri's wife. If that was said as it was said in that moment, then it feels to me, I'm a fairly optimistic person. I would never say never, but I don't know how a party of unity comes back from that myself. And there are people in the chat who have said that's what was said. If they were in the room when it happens, it would be good to know. Or if this is just, because the other thing is we're hearing Tākuta say this now. Is that what was said? Well, what I'd like to do is what responsible people should do who are broadcasting this to people is check and validate, validate it. And so I'll do some work on that tomorrow and see if we can find out if that's what was said. But anyway, Chewie, that's the first time you've heard this. Happy to hear your thoughts around it. I've got 4 other clips to play.
I'm going to say just really quickly, just on the usage of the word utu, it can mean a variety of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like a correcting the balance, and at one point, yes, it can mean revenge. But yeah, it I don't want to get hung up on the meaning of the word, but yeah, it definitely seems that it's used in the way of like, oh yeah, cool, everybody's working through this, and then someone slams on the fucking brakes, and look, it's reinforcing my own bias here that I don't like JT. So it is. I'm finding it very easy to believe that this is where the roadblock is. And I don't know how this is why there is a really clear break from the leadership at the Māori Party and everybody else.
Yeah. People in the chat are saying Tākuta lost their respect with that Instagram post.
Yeah,
that is a
and
clip.
that's fair.
But there is a clip that I've got time coded for that. It's not one of the clips I'm going to show. I'll leave that to you, Chewie. If we get to the end of my other 4 clips and we want to play that one, I'm happy to scroll back to it, because he does acknowledge it, and he does acknowledge that there were some mistakes there, but he also says some themes around it are okay as well. I'm paraphrasing. So we could look at that at the end if we wanted to. Let's go to the next clip. And this clip flows on from the conversation we just heard, talking about Tākuta's relationship with the co-leaders, and he kind of goes, seems fine, and then they go into a part where he talks about his relationship with JT, and that's what we're going to watch right now.
What's your relationship like with the president, John Tamihiri?
Pretty open, pretty frank. I mean, I got respect for JT and what he does. You know, I understand myself, how I'm raised, my professional life, what I deem, principled activity and all of that. I've worked in education and senior leadership in education for 14, 15 years. I've maintained my upbringing, our Tāo Māori roots and all of that. It's all a dance and everything. I know everyone has to do one somewhere. So I've got respect for JT in that regard. Where we are now, I think JT has made some very, very poor, selfish decisions that's led us to where we are now, and those decisions are actually diminishing the faith, belief, ability of our people to participate, the hope amongst our people. All of these things are being jeopardized for quite self-centered reasons, in my view.
Selfish how?
Well, if I take us back to that night of that hui, JT could have set aside his desire for utu for his daughter, and he could have put in front what the people need. And we all knew, we've all known for the last couple of years, but even more so in the last few months, that we have to be moving powerfully into 2026. And so in my view, JT just decided to give that all away to pursue utu.
There you go. Now, someone in the chat will correct us all here. I could have looked it up. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but his daughter, Kiri, or maybe even he, owns some of the IP to Toitu Te Tiriti, whether it's the name or something like that. And so whatever the utu is for his daughter or those Kapakingi boys, it's all tied up in Toitu Te Tiriti and what that actually means. I don't know, but I know there is a connection between the Tamihiris and Toitu Te Tiriti when it comes to a legal sense, like an ownership of some of it. So what Tākuta is saying is egos have gotten in the way, and person could have been humble and put his own desires second and put the necessity of the party first, but that didn't happen. Again, that's what Tākuta said. Now, I've spoken to JT a couple of times. He doesn't want to come on with us. He's got no interest. He says no every time, so we're not going to get him. But, you know, he goes on with Bomber. Maybe Bomber will get a chance to talk to him and flesh it out a bit. So Chewie, thoughts, reactions to that bit?
It's made me reflect on Hannah's statement from a few days ago, that she wishes everybody would there's wrongs on all sides and people should get together. Look, I'm happy at this point to say that Hannah is the heart and soul of that party, and if she doesn't know what way to fall at the moment, how are there supporters that clearly rallied around her? How are they going to take this? And I think if Hannah does reach a decision, stay or go, that's going to be really telling.
Yeah, and our understanding is Hana is going back this weekend to have hui with her people, and her people, her iwi, her leadership group within her circle will decide what she does. And that's happening this weekend. And does that mean stay with Te Pāti Māori? Does that mean become independent? Does that mean go to a different political party? We have, well, I'm saying we because we've had a few kind of ideas come in that me and Chewie know about, but we don't have any knowledge on any of those options. It could be any of them. I mean, it could even be, depending on how this feels, it could even be done with politics. Like if this has come off to a young wahine as this is all shit and this is not what I want to do with my life, it could be the end of it.
But why is someone so young, so new to this, being the only one to take the correct steps here?
Being the adult in the room.
She is the adult in the room, the only one that's not letting her own ego derive direction here. Oh, man. This is so disappointing.
Okay, well, let's keep going and I'll let you get disappointed some more. Conversation here, and I can't remember exactly what the lineup is because I've just written Debbie on JT and Tākuta on Eru. And I think, I do remember what this is. Tākuta is about to say, this is the piece I'm thinking of, it's quite cutting. Because Tākuta is about to say, well, I don't need JT. If Debbie does, so be it. And Tākuta identifies Eru as the kind of person, I'm pretty sure he doesn't say the person, that needs to be leading this movement because like 70% of the million Māori in New Zealand are under 40. And it's like, it's a really interesting perspective. It's like it's time to hand the torch on, is what he's saying.
Te Ngāre Wapeka says that he's the man, JT's the man to take Aotearoa to Hawaii ki hou. How whakaro ki tērā?
Oh, yeah, I get what Debbie says. She said that a number of times. And for me, I don't need JT. I'm clever enough to work out anything. So if Debbie needs JT, can't do it without him, well then that's her setup. But I don't believe that young Māori of my generation actually need someone to come and do that for us. And if you were to ask me, because the drive of Te Pāti Māori is to capture the rangatahi. Our 700,000 of our 1 million people who are under 40, 500,000 of them are under 25. We have to appeal to...
That's like, just stop and think about that. Half of all Māori in New Zealand, half are under 25. Half. So...
It's crazy.
But you think about that with the representation for that percentage of Māori, and there's no shade, obviously, within Māoridom, obviously, matua and senior gets respected massively. But if the leadership's all grey-haired and older, you can kind of understand how maybe some young, just forget it's even Māori, young people don't see themselves in that leadership. So I'm not suggesting that there is the answer, but when Tākuta lays that out, you're like, okay, that's an interesting perspective, if nothing else.
Under 40, 500,000 of them are under 25. We have to appeal to that group and we have to capture that group's attention and teach them how to participate fully. Now, if you would ask me, is JT the right guy to lead that? No, not the right guy. Okay, the right guy looks and sounds like an Iru Kapakingi who can capture that cohort of our people and move them through how to participate well, show up, represent yourself well. And we know that if we capture them young enough and get them into this behaviour early, voting, thinking about it, participating, they'll just continue on. So that's the drive we need. And so in that regard, no, I don't think JT is the guy for this job. I think there's a very smart cohort of young Māori out there who are tested, they're in the midst of their careers, they know how to do it. We have the skill, and that's what it needs.
There you go. That's the clip. Chewie, your thoughts?
Yeah, like I 100% agree. Like I've said, very similar things, that the wave of politically savvy and social media savvy young Māori, they're coming through, rejecting the old ways of just doing things, that know the power of protest, know the power of self-marketing, essentially, and who have been, what was it called? The Kahanga generation?
Growing up speaking from day one sort of thing, going through schooling, speaking to... And Orini's in that as well. Orini's a part of that. Hana's part of that.
That generation that's come through since the protesting movement of the the late 70s and 80s and that sort of thing. Like, that's the world that they've existed in. And I think they can look upon something like this with a huge amount of disappointment and go, hey, look, we marched for this, we pulled for this. And you guys have fucked it. It's a crossroads here, where you're either going to disappoint them forever or you're going to pivot and let them push. Yeah, I 100% agree with what Ferris is saying there.
There's still comments I can see going through the chat about hard to take Tākuta seriously since that late night Instagram post, and we've got time, so we'll play that at the end. There's one more clip I was going to play, but then we'll go back and play that one as well. And this last clip, actually, there's emotion here as well, because the conversation is around a couple of things. The first one is he kind of throws shade at the organisation of Te Pāti Māori, and the question he asks is, how many planning meetings has Te Pāti Māori had in 2025? And he himself answers that by saying 0. So he's throwing some shade at the organisation, but he also then talks around the behaviour that was at Takutai Tash Kemp's funeral and at the tangi. And I don't know if he uses the word offended, but made him pretty angry and pretty mad. And again, in a very, very clumsy way, when earlier I was trying to explain how Māori politics is different, not being a part of it, not fully understanding it, when you hear the way things are supposed to happen, and if it's not done correctly, then that's a mark on the soul, and then that gets intertwined into politics. You know, it's different. It's different. That's all I can say. All I can think of saying. Okay, so let's get into this second to last clip now, and then we'll show that one about the Instagram post.
Real plan. If you ask me how many planning meetings the Māori Party has had in 2025, easy answer, none. None. Not a single one. This is what you're sort of dealing with, right? So our takuta is under this immense pressure. She's getting no support. And this all sort of leads us to the time where Rauri and Debbie are suspended. So we're doing the 21 days in the house.
This is the haka.
Yeah, suspended for the haka, right? And so it ends up just us in the house. Me, Hana, Takutai, Beno. And we're just doing all the housework. Now, Rauri and Debbie didn't have to not be at the house. They were only suspended from the chamber. So they could have still come to the house and done the work. They opted to stay out. I don't know why you would do that as the leader. But anyway, that's what happened. And in that time where it was just us four in there, we began working in a manner that was easy. It was easy, it was efficient, it got stuff done. And across those couple of weeks, we had a few hui. And at that last week, we four had agreed that an intervention was required. And we worked out how to do it after they came back. Now, the tragic thing was that Takutai died that week. And then what happened during that tangihanga is some of the most despicable stuff I've encountered. And if anyone wants to challenge me on it, I'm good to go.
What happened?
Poor behaviour. Poor behaviour. I'll tell you this much, because Whanari is happy, has shared it openly with me and others. Her, Whanari, Takutai's mum, and Matua Karaka, her father, were driving to Auckland to pick their girl up and take her home. they heard on the radio that their girl was going to Hoani Waititi. And then the rest of that story is a debacle of immense proportion. And I'm happy for that whānau to talk about it. And I know there's sensitivities around it and all of that. But in my time dealing with tangi, and I had to deal with our Uncle Piri's tangi, probably the biggest tangi Ngāti Kaunganu's ever had to deal with, I've never come across anything like that.
That is the end of that clip. Now, again, not really understanding the protocols and practices completely around it. It sounds like what he's saying, correct me in the chat if you're wrong, is that, tradition would have takutai would be going to her home marae or back with family, and there was an intervention and went elsewhere. And yeah, someone just says in this point here, and then got sent the bill. He does talk in this interview about the family having a big bill to pay as well, and Mihingarangi was like, what do you mean bill? And so there's something to do with that as well. Again, I don't want to kind of put more shade. We don't have the full thing, but that's part of this conversation. And if you want to check it out, go and check it out. Chewie, you can see the emotion in Tākuta's face in that.
That seemed very real.
And obviously, I'm going to say it for a third time, it's just different. I mean, if a European in the Labour Party passes away and they go and have a funeral, and it's different. And the different way Māori handle life and do life is also the different way they do politics. And so there's an element of this I just can't understand. I can't understand, and I'm happy to sit back and be educated. We're just giving you what's been said today. We'll go back and play that one about the Instagram post as well, because people are talking about it. But before we do that, Chewie, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, like as I said, that seemed very, very real. Real emotion, real hurt, real anger. I'm not saying Ferris gets it wrong. Gets it right all the time. I don't think there's anybody that really does. But I think this interview has really shown how much emotion is involved in this, and maybe again that's another reason why it's potentially so messy. But somebody, maybe multiple people, need to have a real good fucking look. Someone's gonna have to swallow something not very tasty to get this party back together. And the longer this goes on, and the more of this stuff that gets dredged up, the less I think it's going to happen.
Yeah. And look, Lurchy's just put in the chat, Pat, you called it 100% correct. These allegations need verification and balance. Just so you know, and this is not about this particular issue, in general, we don't care about balance. We care about accuracy. But in saying that, I agree in this instance, and I will be approaching... I'll message Debbie tomorrow, because we do want to hear from that side, because like I said, we're still sitting on the outside looking in. Don't take this, for at least my part, being like this is 100% the truth and this is the answer now. This is the interview that came out today that we're looking at. We will make a space for the other guys to come on. I suspect they won't. I suspect they won't want to talk to it. Because that seems to have been the path they've pretty much taken, bar one conversation so far. But the offer will be there, and we have an open door policy with many people. Debbie and Nawari are two of those people, and they know that as well. They cited us as one of the trusted places they like to talk to in a media interview not that long ago. So the offer will be made, and it would be good to hear their perspective as well, especially with that clarification around that October 9th hui. Ceasefire, yes. I'm going to get Utu. If that's the case, that's because what you have to do in that instance, if that's happened, you have to humble yourself and admit that you're wrong. And most people seem to be saying that's not something that they necessarily think comes naturally to JT. Because if that's accurate, then he'd have to be the one to humble himself. I'll say that for a third time, if that's accurate. Right, let's get to this last clip. I didn't have this set up to do, but we will because people are talking about it. And I'm not playing this now to defend Tākuta, but people are saying they can't take him seriously, a few people, because of the infamous Instagram post. So we'll just give him an opportunity to speak to it because he was asked about it, and then you'll at least have the information to make your own mind up if it changes anything. May do, may not, up to you.
There have been faults on both sides, and you've caused a bit of controversy yourself in the beginning there. I wonder if I should ask you that question then. Is there a place for tangata tiriti and Te Pāti Māori?
Of course.
Do you think you got your words wrong?
Well, I think the fullness of that post was left out. All that was put forward to the media was the image, not the caption. So
I don't know if that's accurate, being fair.
Yeah, I don't
I get the sense that the caption was put out there as well. I wasn't going to play this clip, so I haven't fact checked it, but I get the sense the caption was put out pretty clearly as well, unless what he's saying is not the entirety of the caption. But I'm pretty sure that the caption was. Maybe you can Google that, Chewie, while we're doing it. If you just Google Tākuta Ferris Instagram, it'll pop up, and we can have a look at the end of this clip.
Had to broadcast the caption, everyone would have understood that the image and what it was saying was a challenge to the Labour Party.
But there is a place for Pākehā, for Samoans and Asians and all the rest of them to work with Te Pāti Māori in the seats, campaigning and all those kinds of things.
Well, ko te wāhi ki te tangata tiriti, me te wāhi ki te tangata whenua, I roto I te tiriti o Waitangi. Everyone who's happy with that, participation, inclusion, involvement is fine. So when those three things are misrepresented and used to actually diminish the tangata whenua right, then that's not right. And I'm happy to call that out. And I know that the media storm that got kicked up, that was a media storm without all of the facts. And I said to the media after that, I'll be happy to come and talk to you at some time to flesh that debate out, if you like. The majority of our whānau and the majority of the motu are easily distracted in that debate because you can just quickly have your attention taken away, by a racially driven idea or a racially driven image presented in a particular way. But the debate is the debate. It's about the rights of tangata whenua in Te Tiriti o Waitangi and the rights of tangata tiriti in Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Now, one of the places they managed to diffuse these two things is by hiding Māori in amongst multicultural New Zealand. So let's be clear that the country is a bicultural country. Okay, our society is a multicultural society, but the rights that underpin the bicultural country don't change.
Marama au ki tira, whakaro. And as you say, that politics, in the media it can get away on you, but that is politics. And I wonder if you were to do it all again, would you do it differently?
Well, yeah, probably.
Is that the learning, right?
Yeah, definitely. There's learnings in there.
So as someone just said in the chat, I saw it fly by, he had a chance to apologise and he didn't, although at the end he did acknowledge, obviously, that maybe it wasn't the best way to do it. I just want to address this one thing as well, the bicultural country and a multicultural society. The way I've always heard it and understood it, and Chewie, you tell me if you think this is the same, I've always understood the way we describe it as a multicultural country based on a bicultural agreement. It might be the same thing said in a different way. And I'm not trying to pick hairs here, but we are a multicultural country, but it was started and founded on a bicultural agreement. Now, whether we're saying the same thing or not, I don't know, but that's the way I've heard it described before and the way I think I do it.
That's my understanding, right?
But he's basically saying we're a bicultural country and a multicultural society. It's probably the same thing. We're probably saying the same thing, but just putting it out there.
That doesn't sit well with me. But we talked about this when Seymour was kicking off about, an agreement between races. It is not an agreement between races. It is an agreement between the Crown and Māori.
The Crown and the landowners who happen to be Māori. So it's not based like
that's another way to do it.
Well, it's Māori because Māori were here. So in other words, the agreement is with the people here who were of a race, but that doesn't mean the agreement is based on race. It's based on the people who are here.
I mean, it does a massive disservice to people that have come from other places to say that this is a Māori and European thing. It is Māori and everybody else. There's a recognition of the first peoples of this country. So I think you do have, everybody needs to be more careful about how they talk about this. Seymour and Ferris. Now, there's an order of magnitude difference between how those two people are saying this. But, this is one of the things that ACT is quite happy to stick a wedge in our society and turn around to more recent immigrants from India and China and that sort of thing and going, do you think this is fair? You've been here 3 months. Do you understand the nuance of the Treaty of Waitangi? No? Vote for us, please. So they need to get it right. Personally, I took his comments, the original comments that set them all off, as incredibly clumsy.
Do we want to do it because there's chat going on? Do we want to bring them up just to make sure we're all saying the same thing? Do you want me to Google them and bring them up, or have you done it?
I haven't had a lot of luck bringing up the original comment. I'm actually not sure if it's on his Instagram, but I have found a screenshot of it on an RNZ story, which I've got there.
Here we go. I think I've got it here. Just to see that we're picking on, that we're making sure that we've got the same thing. Blows my mind, Indians, Asians, Black and Pākehā campaigning to take Māori seat from Māori. This hasn't given me a full screen. There's some interesting chat going on, right? Let me just put a couple of them up because the Autist's Way says he's getting academic. And yeah, I understand that as well. Because Teresa is saying Tākuta is meaning the whole understanding of what he said. It was a challenge to the Labour Party. Why can't you accept that, for fuck's sake? Teresa also says it's shocking how you two sit here and criticise Tākuta. I think Teresa might be watching a different show at the moment. You manipulate everything he is saying. He has repeated himself so many times. Sure. I mean, to be honest with you, I think Tākuta has done a superb job here, verbalizing what he's thinking. I'm not. I think that's someone who maybe is not watching the same show that we're doing. Chafoki, Pat Mini, so Tākuta is telling the truth. Yeah, and there was a lot of conversation around those Instagram comments, and I wonder if it is one of those things, and not to necessarily defend those comments either, but one of those things that, when we're in a mindset where we're the expert, and we can say some things in a clumsy, easy way. Like sometimes I say to someone, I don't care. That could be read as you don't give a fuck. But what it normally means is, for me, it normally means I don't have an opinion on this. Any outcome is okay. And I wonder if, as Tākuta kind of said at the end there, he might do it differently, meaning he might word it differently, because the word he's using were clear for many people, especially within Māoridom, but not for outside Māoridom. And then I guess you have to understand the question, does that matter? Does that matter that people outside Māoridom didn't understand it as well? It wasn't as clear what he was trying to say or what he was getting at with the words he used.
Yeah. And look, just to clarify a little bit when I say that it was ill considered, clumsy and that sort of thing, I'm also saying that from the point of view of how can someone weaponize what you've said against you. And he made that incredibly easy. He didn't like black hat his own comment. And sometimes you have to do this. How is ACT going to react if I tweet this out right now? How are they going to use this post? Well, we saw how they used it. So, yeah, that's what I mean by it was was kind of dumb and ill-considered. Like I was quite vocal in the fact that watching Ferris's defense or attack against the RSB and the select committees and that sort of thing, he is very, very impressive in that setting. He asks some great questions, some great criticisms of the bill and that sort of thing. He's really, really can be very effective. And this is one of the things. This whole thing with Te Pāti Māori blowing apart is denying us that. Him going and making that, in my opinion, ill-considered Facebook post, that became the story rather than how effective he can be.
Yeah. I mean, I think also, don't we also think though that, let's say he got it completely wrong. Let's say that all the people who were saying he got it wrong, it was bad, it was this, it was that, it was all that. Let's take it that was the case. So that means the reality is he ballsed up once. Does that mean he gets thrown under the bus from here on in? Does that mean he made a mistake and we move on?
Well, he's a Māori politician. So looking at history, yes. Right? There's a pile on and then we drive someone out because they're different from the status quo. And that's shit. And that means we get a shitty democracy.
And look, I think Laura says it here because I think Laura, actually I won't say that. I was going to say I thought I saw some of Laura's messages earlier, and I don't want to. Okay, no, Laura did say he had a dickhead post. Okay, because Laura can also acknowledge that and go, he's done good work. The post wasn't one of them.
Yeah, 100%.
That seems to be a pretty fair and balanced, just like Fox News, us fair and balanced.
I mean, here's another example. Remember when Marama got clipped by that bike and then ambushed journalism, and she said, "I know who causes violence. It's cis white men."
Yep.
You know, paraphrasing. But that still, you look at comments about anything about Marama, I guarantee that will come up again. I'll never vote for Green because Marama said this. Now, I doubt, internet commentator, that you would ever vote for Green, personally. But that is those sort of comments made at the heat of the moment or in a particular situation. Like, as a cis white man, I had no problem with what she was saying there because I got the point.
Yeah.
You know, but people would still take that and go, I'm never going to forget that, and I'm going to bring it up every time as a stain against this person's character, their existence, the fact that they're a politician and they said the thing that I didn't like.
And look,
you know,
here's the other thing, right? You are always going to say something that pisses off a group of people. You are always going to say something that pisses off a group of people that another group of people grab onto as gospel truth. Because there are people who hear what Marama said that come back and say, that's why I love the Greens. She spoke the truth. So the other thing, and me and Chewie have experienced this a bit, when, you know, the left decided to throw us out of their team a long time ago, and we had to kind of forge our own path, is I'm not a big fan of, especially in a country where that voice, that Indigenous voice, is so very important, to throw someone out of the boat, the waka, for, as someone said earlier, what some are describing as a dickhead post, when there's still lots. Like, if you at the end of this term put up the good stuff that this person did and the dickhead stuff, you know, if the dickhead stuff is much, much smaller list than the really good stuff, I think we judge them on balance of probability and on the balance of the good stuff, not the one bad thing. And you're right, Chewie. I actually heard someone the other day, I don't know, I was probably watching some horrific online thing, bring up the violent cis white men comment. You know, whatever it is, 2.5 years later, 3 years later.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that will stick around. And I guess when people have said that was a dickhead post, or, you know, when people aren't the other thing that Tākuta has done is that will be a part of his introduction or part of his legacy to many people. And it is what it is. And to other people, it'll be a part of his legacy in a good way. It'll be a part of his, we agree with you. I think that what I'm always going to hopefully try and do is judge people on their body of work rather than one incident. And we've asked you guys that of us, because we will say things from time to time that you hate. It will happen. I, probably more than Chewie's smarter than me, will say something that you guys think you are completely wrong. That is a bad position to take. What we say is judge us on the body of our work. If you've been watching us for 3 years and you've liked it all, then we have one clanger of a night you don't like. Judge us on our body of work. Because there's no 100% correct person. We are failed people. We fall short and we will get things wrong. And so what I will try and do is, you're like Pat on Twitter. Yeah, I see you. I see you in there. What I will try and do is judge people on their body of work rather than the singular incident that I might disagree with. If you have 100 amazing outcomes and one shocker, I'll say, well, that's 100 to 1. 99% of the time you got it right. Not the one time you're out of the team now. I think that's a really dangerous position.
Hey, there is a clarification I want to highlight, because StreamYard's being a dick and I can't grab the comment.
Oh, sorry, dude.
It's gone now, but I'm going to paraphrase. There is a point that we're missing here with the discussion of the Māori role, and I actually hadn't considered this. So this is why I'm mentioning
Let me guess.
people.
Let me guess. Overhang?
No.
Ah.
The only people that can be today, there it is. I found it. Today, only people of Māori descent can choose to be on the Māori roll and vote in Māori seats, but candidates don't have to be Māori. So non-Māori can stand in those seats. I wasn't aware of that. That sounds a little bit fucked.
Really?
That's what the comment says.
No, but I mean, you find it fucked that non-Māori can be in a Māori seat. Because if non-Māori is in a Māori seat, good luck getting voted in. I mean, what I was going to say about the overhang, here's another thing, just to wrap this all up before we head off for the night. If Te Pāti Māori implode and go, whatever, and like what I've said before is there is a very real chance what could happen should Te Pāti Māori implode, and should it be 2 or 3 people left, is that what happens is they're then competing against a new Māori-based party or independents that split the vote, and Labour come through the middle, because a third of the people, or 20% of people, or 30% of people are now voting for the independent, 20 or 30% of people are voting for Te Pāti Māori, and then at 40% Labour comes up the middle and takes the seats. If that was to happen, then we lose the overhang. If we lose the overhang, it's easier for the right to win. This is how it could impact the left in general. The reason we have an overhang is because Te Pāti Māori win more seats than they get party vote. And that's how you get an overhang. So there's another part of this bigger picture looking at it, that we could end up, that this could end up damaging the left's chances to form a government should there be no more overhang, and there's much less likely to be overhang if Labour wins the seats. Something to think about. All right, is there anything else to get to? Oh, there's a few starred ones here. Here we go. Lurch, she says, I don't trust any political agent who litigates their concerns or intentions through a media circus. It only benefits opponents and drama addicts.
Well, as drama addicts, yes.
Jonathan says, Tākuta Ferris sounds pretty convincing to me. Not that my opinion matters, but he sounds really credible. Another one from Lurchi. How did Te Tai Tonga, Te Pāti Māori exec, get 800 signatures to remove JT from 200 members? There's shit all round. I don't know anything about that, but we could look into that, I guess, as well. All right, Whānau, that's us for tonight. I don't think there's any other chats. Is there anything else we're going to do? Oh, what was I going to play? I was going to play something. What was I going to play? Oh, that's right. Maybe we do this
the
tomorrow
end
night.
credit song.
Have you seen?
It's not nice time.
Have you seen what? This is a cool conversation. So I'll just throw it at you now. We're super quick, and then we'll go, and then we might talk about it tomorrow. How Elon Musk has added in that new thing to Twitter to show where your account is from.
Oh, so good.
And the reason
So good.
the reason he's understood to have done it is because he wanted to prove all the bot left-wing accounts. But what ended up happening is a huge percentage of the right-wing bot accounts ended up being bots from like Nigeria, Turkey, Bangladesh, East Asia and Pacific, Chile, and then he turned it off. And then, of course, when he turned it off, he looked like a complete goose and he had to turn it back on again to save face because there was very few, if any, significant left-wing Twitter accounts that were based like in some kind of bot farm in Russia or whatever. And I asked the question today on Twitter, I wonder if this is going to be the same in New Zealand. And there's a few. There's a few that come out being from the US, but then there's also the question about VPN. So anyway, that was kind of a happy, fun thing to finish the show with, I guess. Yes? Yes.
Absolutely.
All right, Whānau. Yeah, I'll put those invites out there. I don't expect Te Pāti Māori to want to speak, but maybe at the very least we can find out an answer to that question is that what was said in the hui, if nothing else, and we'll go from there. Other than that, though, I think we're pretty much done, aren't we, Chewie? Done for the night?
Yep. It's not nice time.
It's not nice time for people who haven't got editing to do for the next few hours.
Yep, straight to bed.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All have a lean either this way or that, and will be analyzed by what Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
See if I can remember, Chewie, to turn off all those specials on the store. But you might have another day to get in there, bhn.nz/shop, get some freebies coming out to you. Or maybe there'll be other freebies tomorrow. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right, Chewie, that's it for me, mate. Anything you want to wrap up with?
No, that is all from me as well. We'll see you all tomorrow.
All right. Catch you tomorrow, team. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam.